EI P naught be the elasticity of the demand for good X at price P naught given its demand function. Consumer do not consume identical amount of X at P naught, then the price elasticity of demand at price P naught is going to be. So very simple. So just think about this. Suppose for consumer 1, now they have given n consumers, but if I can just find out something for 2 consumers, then I can also go ahead and generalize it for n consumers. That is not going to be a big thing. So I'm going to find it for consumer 1 and 2 and then generalize it in the n case. So let's say that for consumer 1, the demand function is x1. And for consumer 2, the demand function is x2. And now what we want to go ahead and do is find the formula of elasticity of demand. So E1 is elasticity, will be how X changes as P changes into P by X1, right? And E2 will be how X2 changes as P changes into P by X2. Now, this actually goes ahead and tells that price is P naught, and it tells me consumer do not consume identical amount. So I know that demand of good 1 at P naught is not equal to demand of good by individual 2 or at P naught. So the 2 individuals, they're not demanding identical amounts. X1 P naught is not equal to X2 P naught. So, when I substitute P equal to P naught, I will get this as the elasticity of consumer 1 and this as the elasticity of consumer 2. Now, the aggregate demand function can be given by X is equal to X1P plus X2P. So how do we find the aggregate demand? The aggregate demand is simply adding the demand of the 2 individuals together, right? So I found out the demand of individual 1 and demand of individual 2. This gives me the aggregate demand. Now what I can do is I can differentiate X with respect to P. And when I differentiate X with respect to P, I will get del X1 by del P plus del X2 by del P, right? So I have to somehow convert these into elasticities. Now what I can do in order to convert this into elasticity is that here I can just multiply this with P naught by P naught into X1 by X1. And I can also multiply this second one with P naught by P naught into X2 by X2. Very simple. And now I can just formulate that this is elasticity of consumer 1. And this is elasticity of consumer 2. So I've got elasticity of consumer 1 into X1 by P naught plus elasticity of consumer 2 into X2 by P naught, right? And on the left hand side, if I perform a similar thing, what can I do? I can multiply P naught by P naught on both sides and X by X on this side. So I can get that this is elasticity of the good in the market. So what have I got? I have got something like this with me to hold. Elasticity, aggregate demand elasticity into X by P naught is elasticity of individual 1 into its demand by P naught plus elasticity of individual 2 into its demand by P naught. So it is very simple to see that this P naught cancels out, right, throughout. And elasticity of the aggregate demand, I can take X down, comes down to E1 X1 by X plus E2 X2 by X. Now just think about this. See, if I just go back and I look, this tells me it is summation EI squared, summation elasticity of individuals, summation elasticity of individuals by N. Now, in this case, from here, had it been the case that X1 and X2 were identical, suppose in the question they would have said that X1 is equal to X2, then it would have been simple. I would have done E1 into X1 by X plus E2 into X1 by X, because if they were identical by X. And from here, I would have taken X1 by X common and I would have got summation E. right? X1 by X would have been common and it would have been summation E. This would have been the case had it been identical. Now for me, it is clearly given that it is not identical. If it is given to me that it is not identical, I cannot take anything common. The maximum I can do is write this X as X1 plus X2 because X is the aggregate demand. So it is going to be sum of the individual demands. So here I can write X1 plus X2 and here also I can write X1 plus X2. So I can formulate a formula that, you know what, the aggregate elasticity, it is summation of elasticities into the weights, and this weight is your individual demand divided by the total demand. But this does not resemble any of the above cases, right? I have been able to get a generalized value, but this does not resemble any of the cases we see above, because I cannot go ahead. So had I been able to, I could have generalized when people would have had same demand, right? So had the question said that X1 is equal to X2 is equal to X3 and so on, then I could have rewritten this part as Xi upon X can be written as X1 plus X2 plus X3 till Xn. But all these demands were equal. So had these been equal, I could have simply written as nxi. And this would have cancelled out and I would have been left with 1 by n. So in that case, I would have got this generalized formula of this. This is what this is. This is what this is. This part. But in the question, they clearly mention that consumers do not consume identical amount. So I cannot generalize it in that way. So the answer will be none of the above. The maximum generalization I can go to is this. Okay.